Hi there, thanks for joining us. Just in this following video, we're just going to explain the various fee models that EFTPOS banks use or merchant services use. Now that's not exclusive to each bank. Obviously, one bank, for example, Commonwealth, might use 2 or 3 of these different models. But what we'll do is we'll just run through each of them, explain to them how each of them might marry up to various industries. And once we've done that, that'll give you some clarity around why we select that model, or we believe that we'd advise that model would be best for your business. So yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
So here we have the flat rate fee model. It's probably the most simplest model out there across a number of the banks, although it's also probably one of the rarest forms of fee models that one of the banks would charge. And the reason for that is nowadays there's a lot of premium cards. Now a lot of people ask, what is a premium card? Well, a premium card is basically a card where you spend and you get some sort of reward, whether that's points, cashback, or there's a number of different other options. Now going back sort of 5 to 8 years, there was only about 10% of those cards around, whereas nowadays there's somewhere around 45% estimated. So basically the banks nowadays, they all buy the rates at wholesale from Visa and MasterCard. And when they do this, obviously a premium card will attract a higher wholesale price. So therefore, as these cards have become more common, this flat rate model has become more and more redundant. And the reason for that is obviously the more and more premium cards out there being used, the less and less margin, or the unpredictability of the margin the banks have got. So that's when they'll start to push you towards the later models, which is compressed, and then I like to call the variable model. But we'll just start here with the flat rate model, and it's probably the most simplest. So here you have, you'll notice, basically I've highlighted just under there the Visa and MasterCard. This particular one's a Commonwealth statement. Most of the flat rate statements are pretty straightforward and simple. You'll just notice there I've circled the 0.83 on Visa and MasterCard. So that's the exact amount of percentage they're paying on that turnover. So if you have a look there, it's near enough to $6,000 or $5,500 next to Visa MasterCard, and they're at 0.83% of that. So really straightforward, very easy. Now, I guess where's this most likely to be used, this fee model? Well, you want this in high ticket priced industries. So, for example, mechanics, any wholesale, basically anywhere where the average sale price is somewhere over about $70. This is a really good model. So the other things to consider are just peripherals. For example, type of machine, savings price, settlements. That's usually the only things to consider when you've decided that flat rate's best for you. So here we have the compressed model. Now this particular bill is an ANZ bill, although most other banks have it, such as Commonwealth. I think Westpac even do it as well. And excuse the fuzziness of the bill there. We're just trying to get a bill with the right model. So with this model, we'll go forward and explain in a second, but basically what they're trying to do with this one is make the most money they can off a standard card, whilst also charging a premium rate so they can, I guess, protect that profit margin on the premium and sometimes super premium categories. So here I've just highlighted, you'll see in the top left there, I've underscored credit premium and credit standard. Most times you'll actually see another one that says credit super premium, and that'll attract an even higher rate again. So if you look at credit standard and just go across to where I've circled it, it says 0.90. Now that's a standard rate. Now right above that is your premium rate. Now that's 1.74. Now a lot of times when it's a super premium, that'll be up there around 2.15. It's hard to know when this fee model is actually probably best used, and to be straight with you, it's probably one that's just heavily in favour of the banks. They've got a foot in each camp, so to speak. They've got a low standard rate, but also they're making huge profit margins by locking in their premium and super premium rates. So this is definitely a model to straight out avoid. If you see this model, it's almost guaranteed that your customer will save 20 or 30% minimum off their bill. Obviously that's turnover dependent, but when you look at this model, it's basically the bank's making an enormous profit off this customer. And now we come to the final fee model that banks charge, and that's called the variable rate model, and that's what I've basically named it because that's what it is in its essence. Now you'll notice there about halfway down it says credit card interchange category. Now this is the exact format the banks actually buy their rate models or their rates at wholesale from Visa and MasterCard. So that's the exact categories. Now the number of cards listed there, all it comes down to is what cards were used in that previous month. So sometimes you might only have 4 categories, other times you might have up to 20 if it's a high turnover business. But it's a really simple thing to explain how they do it, although to the untrained eye it's extremely confusing, and most times people will never understand what they're actually paying. So you'll see here I've actually highlighted a number of things, and they all trace back to the one, but I'll just start. If you see there at the top there, it says add on top of each of the below, and there's a little arrow pointing to a circle with 0.291. Now this is where most people get confused. It's really frustrating actually as well. When you ask a customer what rate they're paying, that's what they'll tell you. Now that's below any wholesale. Wholesale price, the lowest one's about 0.4, 0.5. So if anyone says they're paying less than that, they're lying or they don't know. So what you've actually got to do is take that amount, and they call that the MSF, the merchant service fee. That's actually the profit the bank make. Now the lowest you'll get that with any bank I've seen at about 0.22, and that's if your turnover's up around about 100 grand a month. So the simplest way to think about that is profit the bank make. So you've actually got to take that 0.29 and add that on the top, if you follow that line down, on every single one of those different categories. And you'll see there just to the right of it, I've actually marked up the actual rates that customer paid. So in this case, the first one, instead of being highlighted in the circle 0.92, you've actually got to add the top onto it. So it becomes 1.22, 1.61, 1.51. And you can see I've done the little dashes that go to $20.68 and $95.64, because they're obviously the highest fees that customer paid. So you'll see down the bottom also, at the bottom of that category, I've written there actual average is somewhere between 1.3 and 1.5%, and that'll vary each month, and it could even go higher. It's basically just dependent on what cards those customers paid with, and of course you can't control that. So the reason I've circled there $147.45 is because if you actually follow that line all the way back to the top, you've got to add those two dollar amounts under it, which is $10.63, $32.70, and that comes to the $190. So on that actual $14,684, you're actually getting charged $190.77. Now, this model here is completely dependent on what card the customers use. It does have its advantages, although generally when you can use a flat rate, that's what you really want to be going for. So just in summary, guys, there's the 3 rates in front of you. So you've got the flat rate, and that covers all the cards. There's never a need to worry about a premium, a super premium, a commercial card, or anything else. Now, the obvious one that it doesn't include is something like a Diners or MasterCard. Now, the compress rate, that's the one you want to avoid. Whenever I see a customer with that, I know I can save them tons of money. And the final rate, which does have its advantages, which is variable rate, sometimes you can instruct your customers to just start using PayPass. And what that'll actually do is attract a lower fee straight away. But there really is instances where that doesn't occur, and it is just a case-by-case basis. So there's basically the 3 models the banks use. Now, when you're actually looking at what would be best for a customer, I never look at which institution. It's always about what's the best rate model and what's the best features, or what features would that customer need. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate that.